What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissom, and with me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs.
What up,
David,
Joe?
how we doing?
Good. Very good. Still in white.
You know what's one of the things that I love about sports documentaries? When somebody
What?
goes, I just trusted the process. It's like one of my favorite things to hear when you watch it, like whether it's, and obviously I'm more basketball biased, but you hear MJ say it, you hear Kobe say it, LeBron say it. I mean, these greats.
Well, what do you think they mean? Like what like genuinely like what do they mean by that? And I think I know what they mean, but like what is the process?
I think it is a really one, I think it's a very interesting thing to say. But two, my interpretation of it is this. Along the way of any climb, anytime that you're doing something worthwhile. I don't care if you're trying to lose 20 pounds, pass the CFP, you're trying to become a better basketball player, you're trying to, take five strokes off your golf score. There is always going to be temptations for shortcuts or things that appear to be an easier way to do things. There's always going to be temptation of uh, this is a better
Quitting.
route or this is a better way to do it. And sometimes the boring thing doesn't is not as appealing. And although that might yield the best results, there's always temptation to do it.
Well, I also think there's you talk about doing the process, which is what you're alluding to like getting to where you want to reach your goal. Yeah, you're saying it's not always the sexiest thing. It's not always the most fun. It can be boring. So there's temptation to go elsewhere for that. But I also think that I just want to throw this out there. There's also a lot of temptation to not do it because it's too tough, and in for lack of a better word, you just quit.
Yeah, or boring, right? Like, I've been really getting back into working out and doing cardio. And one of the workouts that me and my workout buddy do is every Wednesday we do a long cardio. And for the first couple of weeks that we did it, it just sucked. There was no, it wasn't fun. We would basically we would run and row for anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour. And that's not fun. You're either on like one of those free treadmill runners or on a rower for an hour. 2 months later, we start to really feel it inside of our other workouts, right? You can push harder, we can push longer. And there's a temptation to go, yeah, it's Wednesday. It's a boring workout. I don't want to do it. I'll go and do all the hard workouts, but I don't want to do this boring workout in the middle of the week. And I can go. I'll just go for a walk. I'll ride my bike. I'll do knowingly that those workouts were the ones that when you really started feeling it in our other cardio where you can push harder and all of a sudden all of our scores are going down dramatically. You're going, well, I wonder what that is. Well, that's that long, steady state cardio day that we did in the middle of the week, and we did it for weeks on end. And again, we're only doing it once a week. It feels like a dumb workout to put in the middle of the week. It
All
feels
right.
like it won't really do anything. All you're doing is running and sweating. Why am I doing this? This is boring. I don't want to put my headphones on at the end of the day and just grind it out for an hour. It sucks. But we both like, and there are definitely times where both of us were having that moment and going, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And I want to quit at round four. I want to quit at round five. We just did 30 minutes. Why do we need to do another the last 10? We just did 40 minutes. Why do we need to do the another? It's all of that is part of the process and trusting that and having faith that that effort is actually going to lead to something good in the future is a big jump of faith.
Mhm.
And I think that with CFP, this is, one of the hardest things to do that when you're sitting there on a Tuesday night doing your flashcards over and over again, or doing your practice questions, or doing the reading and saying, well, the reading is not actually doing anything for me because you're not seeing the immediate result that you want. The flashcards are not doing anything for me. This seems like dumb memorization. It's not worth it. because you're not seeing the immediate result. That's a tough leap of faith to put yourself into that will actually lead to the results. And it's all those efforts that happen at the beginning of your process, that continue through the middle of your process, that go through the end of your process. All those little efforts that you do day in and day out that ultimately get you the pass on exam day. And I've talked to a lot of people, yourself included, after they pass, and it's like, hey, what was the one thing that you really think, oh, man, you weren't kidding about those flashcards? They saved my ass so many times. I'm really happy I did the reading. As much as I want people to come back and say, Joe, it was you. You're the difference maker. You are the best teacher on earth. And that's, I will certainly take some credit when credit is due. I think that I do a pretty good job putting together this process, but it's those efforts that are repeatedly done over and over again that you as the student do that are going to ultimately lead to your success.
Yeah, I'm trying to unpack all that. That was like a
There's a
five
lot.
minute
There's a lot. I mean, I just said a
that
lot.
was like a 5 minute monologue right there. Um, all right. Where do I even start? Um, yeah, I mean, I think my perspective on like the process is like you have there's an end goal in mind. You've come up with a roadmap of how to get there, or somebody gives you the roadmap, a la someone coming to you with, hey, I need guidance, any direction on how to pass this exam. Passing this exam is the ultimate destination. You're giving them the map and the blueprint how to get there, or they came up, or someone does it outside of you and they did it themselves. And when you say trust the process, it's like trust the plan that has been set out to get you to achieve your goal. Because a lot of times I think what happens is, and it can happen even when you go to the gym. You go to the gym with like a specific workout that you have in mind, but then you veer off. You do this, you do that, you do this instead, you shorten this part. And then it's like, all right, well, did I really do what I wanted to do here today? Or to analogize it to this exam, you have a schedule, what you're going to study, when you're going to study, and then ultimately like how you're going to hold yourself accountable and track your performance. And not trusting the process is kind of like veering off in the middle of that
Mm,
whole of the road. And that's where people get caught into trouble, in my opinion.
absolutely. And,
So when you say
and
like, so yeah, so when you say like trust the process, it's like just trust me, like do this, and this, put your full effort in, go above and beyond, and like you'll reap the success and the achievement at the end.
it's a
Don't,
it's a very hard leap of faith because in the middle it feels uncomfortable. Like, you went
yeah,
through the
or
process and it was very uncomfortable for you at points.
right.
What
I
did you do
mean,
to get over that discomfort? Because you were ultimately a person that really did trust the process. Like
that's what I'm
clicked.
saying.
You and
Yeah,
I clicked at the
exactly.
beginning, and I think you trusting me was part of the reason that you followed it. Like that, you weren't like Joe's going to steer me in the wrong direction.
No, exactly. That's why you say like, oh, when things get tough in the middle or when you doubt yourself, blah, blah. When you feel like you have good guidance and you came up with a good plan or you were given a good plan, just go back to that. Just trust it. Like it's good. Like that's baked into the process that like you are going to get frustrated and not maybe move along as fast as expected at times. And it's going to be difficult. Like that's all baked in to the process if you plan it out right. So that's what I would always draw back to.
I
And
I
I
I
tell
like that.
people,
I
yeah,
like
and
that.
and and I tell people all the time when they ask me about about your course and possibly, joining you, usually they do. Um, but but I tell them, I'm like, listen, like you gotta just trust the process. You gotta just like trust in the schedule. Just trust. Joe, and I'm not saying this isn't like a shameless plug. It's not an infomercial, but you got to just trust the process that you're going to get through it. That's the best. That's the most honest, best way I can just describe to you.
I like that because I think it doesn't mask the fact that it's going to be tough, that you're going to have moments of doubt, that you're going to go,
Yeah,
why did I do this? Why am I in this? Why did I choose? Like all of those things are ultimately part of the process. That it doesn't,
exactly.
there is obviously the content part of the process, but there's the emotional part of the process, which is just as big, if not bigger than the actual studying, is managing those emotions throughout. And doubt is part of it, but you got to keep studying. Being uncomfortable is part of it. You got to keep studying. Just because you're starting to feel tired in the middle of a run, maybe you adjust your speed, slow it down a little bit. Okay. I'm moving a little bit too fast. Let me slow down a little bit. And what that means is that trusting the process doesn't mean that there aren't going to be adjustments along the way. That's also part of the process. But it doesn't mean that you get to abandon ship in the middle and then expect the result at the end. And that's ultimately what we're saying, is that this is something that is going to be difficult. And at times, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is tough. Now, I'm going to give you one other scenario with trusting the process, which is something that I've been chatting with students about more recently. As I've moved into more groups, I obviously have more people taking tests on a regular basis. And one of the things I tell them with trusting the process and trusting your gut is you get to the exam and you see an answer you've never seen before, and you bring it down to something you know and something you don't, and then you answer that thing that you didn't know because you're like, oh man, I don't even remember seeing that in the book. Oh man, that's got to be the answer. And I've been calling it the Adam
Yeah.
and Eve questions because it's that big, juicy temptation of an apple.
And you assume because you assume that if you haven't seen it before, it's correct. You're like, oh, I must have missed that. Like that,
Yep.
like I messed up there. Like the exam and the material is better than me.
Yes.
So if I don't know it, it's because
Beautifully
I'm
said.
below.
Yep, exactly. And you're kind of thinking like, oh, I didn't prep enough. I didn't do what I needed to do. I'm not feeling confident. So that's got to be the answer because I
That's
missed it.
gotta be it. That's gotta be it. If I don't know that information or I feel like I haven't read it, and the logical thing is like you should be like, if I don't know it and I didn't read it and I did as much as I studied the best of my ability, like it may not be true or it may not even be a thing.
True.
But but most people I think the opposite, and they think they're more cynical and pessimistic people that they're assuming they missed something. They're assuming that they didn't understand something. And that's why the answer that you haven't seen or you don't understand, you assume that that is correct.
Correct. Exactly right. I actually did this yesterday with my Series 6 class. And we were doing a mock that I had come up with for them. And it was a question on commercial paper. And the context of the question was something like, General Electric just paid for a whole bunch of inventory. They need to borrow money so they can pay their employees. What is their best option? And like answer A was commercial paper. And then the answer B I put was payroll paper. And when the students were discussing the answer to that question, the literally everybody was like, oh, we got rid of these two and it's down to commercial paper and payroll paper. So I asked them, I'm like, what's payroll paper? And they're like, I don't know. It honestly kind of sounds a little made up, but it seems like a plausible answer. And I'm like, I made it up. And they're like, what? Like, and I was like, that's the big juicy apple, right? And that's a great example of what you tend to see on an exam where it sounds correct, right? Payroll paper that they're going to issue for payroll, which is obviously something that doesn't exist. But,
Yeah.
and it's a very, very important part of exam day where we go in and we just assume I haven't prepped enough. And I'm going to go with, oh man, that's got to be it. And I've seen people do this where they were actually properly prepped for the exam, go in and start making all of those choices instead, and then coming out with a fail because, again, got to trust that process even on that day that it actually that you are prepared, because if you start going in there with doubt, you're going to start making those choices. And I'll tell you, David, in the moment feels good, feels like you did the
Yeah,
right thing, you had the right
it
answer.
does. And you answered something that sounds like it's a very difficult, complicated answer to arrive to. So you're like, that's it. And I feel good about answering that
Yeah,
because
gotta
I
be.
didn't know it, which means it's a difficult topic.
Bingo. And very, and the answer that they had, that their gut was like their first instinct was actually the answer. Like, and those are, and that's something we talk more in depth about in our 50-50 ball, which if you haven't watched that episode, obviously please go back and watch that episode. But I think it's obviously an important thing for you guys to go and watch. But as always, guys, we hope that you found this topic helpful. With any questions, comments, or concerns, please reach out to David or myself. And please subscribe to this channel so we can get out to more CFPs and CFP candidates. And we appreciate your subscription in advance. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.